When we talk about healing the painful legacy of the transatlantic slave trade, we have to go to Ghana, West Africa. It is from here that stolen and enslaved Africans were shipped across the sea. Millions of captured Africans were processed at forts and castles along her shoreline. 44 of these places of unimaginable horror remain standing today. It is also in Ghana that the internationally acclaimed artist Kwame Akoto-Bamfo works to heal the descendant pain of slavery by re-engaging with history from an African perspective.
The word slave, Slav, the etymology of the word and how it was applied and how people were treated and used based on the understanding of Europe was totally different from the understanding of Africans.
For example, I just want to share with you some of the objects that we found. So here we have some cowrie shells. Cowrie shells were imported from the Indian Ocean and used as currency. These were used to purchase a number of goods, amongst them enslaved Africans.
Every black man and woman is free, and nobody can free you. You must free yourself.
You can heal through business. You can heal through building a new line of relationship, which is not linked to the old.
The process of healing can take a lifetime. It is not what Europe or our colonial masters imposed on us. They said, hey, now you are no longer slaves and you are free. When we have a people who can spend a whole lifetime grieving.
The art of healing is a journey into the minds of those who want to liberate themselves.
We go back to the beginning to understand, to educate, to recognize the anger, to grieve, to heal.
So my goal is definitely to start conversations, and those conversations can lead to new ways around healing. I'm by no means an expert. I'm a lifelong learner on this subject, and we'll get to hear the voice of Kwame Akoto-Bamfo. And it's just that is my dream, that this documentary start conversations, important conversations. Alongside this, we want to definitely, and it's been wonderful just walking the streets, going to parties, restaurants, because Cannes is such a place to meet the best of the best in the film world. And even just in our 4 days here, we've made so many fabulous connections, and we look forward to some of those people joining us for the screening, because it is our objective to find distribution here and also investment in some of our, we have 4 more projects, I think, 4 more projects. Yes. So we're looking for investment for those projects as well. Well, certainly we want to sell this project in North America, because one of our main goals is the diasporan connection. So many of them can't come home to Ghana, to Africa, but as Michael says, at least we can show them home so they can start reconnecting with their powerful histories and let go of the narrative that they're descendants of slaves in America. Rather, they're descendants of this powerful, powerful ancestry that we hope to show them in our documentary. We've created a company in Ghana, Accra, which is our base. I've lived and worked in Ghana for the last 3 years, and along with my creative partner Michael and some very excellent executive producers on board, Amar D. Perry, Thomas Ochery, Michael Ofori, we aim to make Ghana the creative hub, the film production hub of Africa, as it rightly should be. 6 hours from Europe, everybody speaks English, an amazing variety of locations, and just so much more. I could go on forever. I think there's 20 reasons to film in Ghana I've listed in our pitch. So some years ago I met Kwame Akoto-Bamfo. My sister made the introduction, and then he came to speak at a university in Chicago. And I heard Kwame sharing things I'd never heard before, and about the transatlantic slave trade. And as a relatively well-educated and well-traveled woman, I thought, wow, if I haven't heard this, I bet so many other people haven't heard this. And I realized what it was is I hadn't heard the story from the African perspective before. So my dream was just to get that knowledge out there, to walk beside my African brothers and help share their stories with the world, contribute as best I can, although the storytellers are the Africans themselves. I, as a filmmaker, can take the things that I've learned in Canada. I'm a member of the Directors Guild of Canada, and we're trained in a very particular fashion, and help lend my skills to their narratives. Well, it's been my experience that although the topic has been talked over many, many, many times, it's a terrible part of our history, we've not really heard from our African brothers, their perspective on it, what their role in it was, how they're dealing with it, their relationship with the diaspora. And yes, absolutely. I met another filmmaker earlier, yesterday I think, who's made a documentary dealing with some of the same subject, and we're lucky to say I think she's 16 awards she's received. So it's getting out there finally, and it's really exciting for me as a filmmaker that we're telling authentic stories.
I'm very passionate about Africa. I have been living there for the past almost 37 years. I built my career there, and all my businesses are based out of Africa. And I often get concerned from the kind of wrong impressions the rest of the world carries about this continent. As you would know, most of the people call it the dark continent. Not knowing that it is the brightest continent. It's on the equator. The sun is present on Africa the maximum number of times. Forget about the beautiful weather which the continent has. You look at the largest mineral wealth which this continent holds, and the entire world depends upon that. But more than that, it's the natural resource of the African people. The African people, to me, I would say they are the most loving and peaceful people in the world. It is we, the outsiders, who go to this continent and make those people fight with each other, play the politics because we want to have ownership of the mineral wealth over there at a very low cost. And this is the cause of all the troubles, but which the outsiders are calling. But the people of Africa, as you would know, the human being, first human being on the planet, 100,000 years ago, was born in Africa. What does that mean? Now we are born, we are young in the rest of the world, but the African humans are the oldest. That means they are more matured than the rest of the world. And indeed, the African traditional culture is the most matured than all other cultures of the world. And this is the beauty of Africa, which I want to bring through the films which I want to make on this continent. And this movie, The Art of Healing, you will be able to see it is this African culture, the African values and traditions which we have tried to bring out amongst the other bigger message of the transatlantic slave and how to heal yourself from it. This is what our movie, The Art of Healing, is covering.
My art is an attempt to not only archive African history and heritage, but to have the artwork serve as a contribution to the healing of various people of African descent. I've been sculpting for a long time, since I was young, but the decision to consciously use my work for healing started around 2006, 2007. And yeah, the main goal is for the artwork to educate and then to use education to contribute to healing of people of African descent. That is the main purpose of the work. That is why I do what I do. And the narrative and the purpose of healing determines the artwork is just an embodiment of of this drive to contrite to healing.
And your dream with your art, the next step, the big picture, the vision, your dream with your art, what is?
Well, my dream is that education will come across through my art, and that the art will be a beacon for various people of African descent, for the artwork to contribute to retracing of knowledge that has been lost and then healing that is much deserved.
Okay, and why this movie is a good translation of your art?
I think for the first time, my friend Darius captures what has sometimes been missed about my artwork, which has been for a long time an over concentration on African enslavement without the way out of the abyss that is created by the narrative and then the legacies of African enslavement and colonization. There's this vacuum and abyss and isolation of African enslavement and the legacies of it without always necessarily giving a way out of it. And my work doesn't only address this matter. I try to, in the creation of my work, give people context and a perspective of our people and the phenomenon of what African enslavement, evolved from the phenomenon of this, the monstrosity of African enslavement and colonization. And then the attempts that has been made by us and Africans in the diaspora to heal from it. Although for a long time, prior to the creation of the documentary, there was an overemphasis on one part of my work only being African enslavement, and I'm glad that we got to do this documentary that is showing giving a panoramic view of what it is that I do as an artist and educator.
Kwame, I happen to be very curious about your work at the Chim Chim Museum. Firstly, to understand what you really do and what is the concept behind this museum.
Well, Chim Chim is an attempt to create, I don't know if the museum is even the right word, but yes, to create a space of healing through reclaiming of African history and heritage and education. And yes, my work there is to make sure that we have a space that is dedicated to our own African way of thinking and doing things and preservation, as opposed to what the Western ideal of a museum is supposed to be. Yeah.
So that comes as news to me as well, that Chim Chim is not a museum, but it's the African version of the so-called Western museum as we see it. But I see that you are the main concept of this movie, The Art of Healing. And what are you really trying to promote through this movie?
I think that the movie, the documentary, is an extension of the narrative and the vision for Chim Chim Museum and what I do as an artist. I believe that the message is film as a medium is an extension of the message that we want to preach at Chim Chim. And it's such an excellent medium for people who may not be able to come or visit the space and see what we are doing. Yeah.
For those of the people in the rest of the world, would you like to tell them this Art of Healing was shot in which country, and where your work of sculpting, which you do at Chim Chim, where is it based out of? What is the exact location?
Well, whilst I've worked as extensively in the USA and then I've worked in Germany as well, I am very proud to say that the Art of Healing was exclusively shot in Ghana. around throughout Ghana, and together with Darius and a whole extensive crew of Ghanaians who contributed to making this happen. Yeah.
So, Darius, you come from Canada and you bring a rich experience of filmmaking over the years. How did you choose Ghana, and how did you land up here, and how this idea of making a film on transatlantic slave come to you? Please tell us something about that.
So my sister was posted here, posted in Ghana rather, West Africa, and she took me out to Nchinchim, and I realized, yes, indeed, it isn't a museum, it's an experience. And it was an experience unlike any I'd ever had. And then as I was very fortunate to meet Mr. Amar, who decided to support our endeavors to get the story out to a much wider audience, and have other people experience that along with us, this visual pilgrimage, if you will, this ability to reconnect to the rich African history, this way to see Kwame's art and the healing that happens out at Nchinchim. It isn't, I mean, it is the transatlantic slave trade, of course, but it's so much more than that. The experience out there, I wanted to share it with the world, really. And, you know, through Michael's amazing visuals, people will see our documentary and talk about the visual feast it is as well. And living now in Ghana for 3 years, I've come to know the country is filled with extraordinary stories and locations.
Michael, you are the director of photography for the Art of Healing. Looking at your work, it is very pleasantly surprising that your skills are of the international level. Where do you get them from? Did you do a photography course, or it's naturally coming from inside of you?
It is naturally coming, and the stories in the Art of Healing was inspiring. And it has been a journey for me making the Art of Healing. With the support of my director, Darius, it really got our work to the international level. With me, to make something great, I think you have to feel it. It's not just about picking up a camera and then capturing it. You need to feel what you want and make it reflect in the visuals you edit. You get it, and on editing, Post 2 has its own techniques that will be added up to it that makes it communicate with the viewer. So it has been good, and it's been a journey making the Art of Healing.
Kwame, I see that your place Chim Chim, which is located in Ada, a very beautiful Pistrine beach side of Ghana, it's becoming very popular with the diaspora. And every year when the diaspora visits Ghana from US, it's like a pilgrimage that they must come and visit in Chim Chim at your place. Was that your dream, that this is how you wanted it to be?
Yes, it was exactly my dream to have such a space for people to have an authentic experience of an African's approach to healing. And yes, I'm very glad word is getting out there, and then people are finding this as a practical space and practical experience of our approach to healing.
Darius, looking at your exposure in Canada and all the great infrastructure you have for filmmaking over there, coming to a country like Ghana where this industry is still developing, what has been your experience in comparison, and what do you see the future of growth of the film industry in West Africa as a whole?
Well, certainly one of the biggest things we know about film is it's a collaborative art, and this isn't ever done with just one person. It's been such a privilege to get to know my Ghanaian filmmakers, of course to work with Kwame, to work with yourself. We all bring something different to the table, and you know, I'm here because I'm Canadian. I don't even need a visa to come to Canada. But we worked very hard to get Michael a visa, Kwame a visa, with the great help and good help of the French Embassy in Ghana. So I think as a filmmaker, I recognize that the partnerships are so important. And even though in Ghana we're still growing in terms of access to cameras, access to lights, all those things are coming. And if the heart of any film is the story, So if you have opportunity to tell that story, these things can fill in. And Amar and I have been working very hard in various countries in the world to get co-productions going.